Hello there, I'm Brit and I'm broadcasting out of the UK. Welcome to my channel, and if it's the first time you're passing by, you'll find I talk about a lot of different things. And on a Wednesday, I premiere a relationship video, normally about 8 o'clock when I can. Today I wanted to talk about the Black British man and the similarity with the slave masters mindset. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because of a recent, quite a series of incidents that have come to me, and there is some kind of similarity going on in different relationships. Now, there seems to be an expectation when women, Black British women, by Black British men. I'm not so sure about the Caribbean man, but the Black British man in particular. There seems to be this expectation that when a Black British woman is living on her own, doing well, has a good job, it is her place to look after the single Black man who's who has had some bad experiences, had some bad breaks then, and it kind of goes sometime back to the 60s and 70s and maybe the 80s. For those of you who are not from the UK, what happened in the 60s and 70s was that we had a DHSS system and a housing system where if you got pregnant and you had a baby and you were on your own, they would house you, and they would house you within 6 months, usually. Could be up to a year, but no more than 6 months. But that was on the proviso you didn't have a man, the father had abandoned you. And so what a lot of women did back then is that they had to kind of discard the man or the father of their child in order to get a home for themselves. Sometimes they'd left their mother's home, sometimes they were in their mother's home, and their mothers told them if they're a big woman, they need to come out and go look after themselves, and any man that breed them to look after them. And a lot of times these Black men were living with their mothers, weren't in a position to provide for a family. And so the Black British woman in that kind of environment ended up using the system to her advantage. And so what she would do, she would discard the Black man and she would go to the housing office and say, look, I'm on my own. The father of my child has left me. I need somewhere to live. I've been kicked out of home. And she would be housed. Now, they would house the woman and the child, providing she had no relationship with the father. And should the father return, she would have to pay full housing benefit. So it was kind of twofold, because the woman, she could either pay full housing benefit or get the government to pay housing benefit if she chose to live with the father. So a lot of women back then, or girls, or whatever you want to call them, chose to have the government pay for their housing, either because they weren't working, either because they was on maternity benefit, whatever the reason, I don't know. But that the housing, or the DHSS as it was known then, which is equivalent to the Social Security Universal Credit, would pay the rent, and they would pay the electricity bill, and I think they would give you some kind of contribution towards nursery care, but only if you were single. So what used to happen is that the men felt discarded, they felt abandoned, they felt, well, if I can't come and live with you and you have my pitney, I'm going to find someone else. Or what they would do is that if I think the man was allowed to stay over no more than 2 nights a week, they would stay 2 nights at this house, 2 nights at that house, 2 nights in another woman's yard, and maybe the Sunday they'd go home and spend the day with their mother. So the black man started to resent the black woman because she had kind of discarded him. She had pushed him to the curb. He was left to fend by himself. She often finished with him because he had all these women about the place, and so he was left without access to his children, and it got really, really complicated, and relationships broke down. And then what would happen? I think, for the black man's perspective, he would have preferred that the woman paid, because she had a job and because she had a home. He would expect her to kind of mind him then and say, okay, yes, I know you have to pay for rent if the government knows I'm living with you. I know you have to look after that child by yourself. I know I'm not in a position to mind you, because a lot of them weren't in a position to contribute to the household. Some of them were, but a lot of them weren't. And so they grew resentful when the woman decided, look, you're not contributing, and you're actually costing me, because now the government is not going to give me any concessions towards my housing. They're going to take away any little support they're willing to give me if I'm on my own. I don't have much money, therefore it doesn't benefit me to have you living with me. So I don't want you living with me. If you want to come and see the kids, you can come and see the kids, but I don't want you living with me because I'm worse off. And so the black man would start to resent the black woman because she was living in a home, she was living by herself, she was doing well by herself, and they resented the fact that she could do well by herself without needing him. He would have liked it if she had needed him, if she had wanted him, if she'd wanted him to be a part of the family. But in that era, that is what the system was, and a lot of black British men blame the black woman for taking advantage of the system. They resent the black woman because she became a part of the system. She became a part of his destruction. She became a part of his alienation. She became a part of him not becoming all that he could be, because when he needed her, she was thinking about herself and her child. And so what happens is, why I call it the slave master's mentality is because of that resentment, that anger, and that hostility. You find a lot of black men feel as though they have a right to abuse black women who are doing well. They resent them because they're doing well, because they look good, because they can afford to go to the hair salon. They can afford to get their nails done. They can afford to dress nice. They might have a nice car. They have a good job. And yet these women who are doing so well are not prepared to look after these men who are not doing so well. And so the only way they can get at the black woman is to either abuse her, or take advantage of her, or sexually exploit her, whatever it is. As far as they're concerned, if they can get you under their wing, and a lot of these black women who look good, who look refined, who are doing well, who have a good job, they have a low self-esteem. They've grown up with adverse childhood experiences, and they're not assertive. And so a lot of black British men will see that weakness, that desire to rescue, and jump on it and say, okay, I found somebody who appears to be kind and will help me. And what will happen is that they will form a relationship. Now, supposing during that relationship, that woman decides, well, look, I don't mind helping you for a little while, but it's getting on a bit long now. I need, if you can't contribute, if you can't do this, or if you can't do that, you're no use to me. I'm better off all by myself. All of a sudden, they see red. All of a sudden, that slave master's mentality comes into the fore. Who do you think you are? I have the power. I am the man. And a lot of men use sex or use that brute force to intimidate the woman. When they see a woman, who on the outside and to everybody else looks beautiful, looks refined, looks expensive and dear, who's got a nice home, who drives a nice car, and they have her squirming on the bed naked in base form, and they're able to have sex with her, consensual sex. I'm not talking about rape. Those men who have that resentment and who are passive aggressive will see that as some kind of power trip. And they will have that woman where they want them. And they can humiliate her, they can shout at her, they can do whatever they want when they get angry, knowing that that woman is feeling too vulnerable, doesn't want to betray her black man. She's still in this vein of, I want to support my black man. I'm still trying with my black man. But anytime I meet a black man, this is the treatment I get. And so she is unlikely to report him to the police if he abuses her, because she knows that if he goes under the police system as we see it now, and as the media portrays it, and as we see on social media, that they're more likely to get beaten up and goodness knows what else. And even though they've done a wrong, a lot of these women don't feel that the black man should suffer for that wrong. They justify it, they rationalise it. It's their history. And a lot of black men will say, my mother left me, my father left me, I was beaten as a child, I had some bad breaks, everybody takes advantage of me, blah, blah. They go on, and some black women, because of that maternal instinct, will want to take care and hope that they can make a difference. So it's about, because when you think about the slave master's mentality, it's about power, and it's about humiliation, and it's about degradation. It's about degrading the black man or the black woman. And a lot of black men will do that to their black women because they resent them for not needing them. They feel abandoned, they feel rejected. And it's a subconscious thing. I don't think they're malicious. I don't think they go in with the intention of being unkind but the thing is that when women who are getting on assert themselves, all of a sudden it's perceived as, is all you talk to like that? You disrespect me? Or you talk to me in that tone? You patronize me? And all of a sudden, you get that sense that for the women, they get that sense of, I better not say anything. They start feeling sorry, and they start making excuses for that kind of behavior. But that kind of behavior is suppressed anger and resentment for black women who can get on without their black man. When the black man has to go to the white woman, they have to do as they're told. The white woman will tell them what they need, and they will do what they need. But when they see black women who don't seem to need them for anything, that is where the problem comes. And that is why they get resentful. And that is why a lot of them mistreat their black women and resent them and almost hate them. Some of them hate them. I remember I did a video on why I can't remember the title, but the venom that came out of some of these black men's mouths against black women was unbelievable. They literally hate black women. So black women have got it hard. Not only do they have this victimization from their own black man, but they have some white men, I'm not talking about all black men, but some black men with that type of mentality, and those black men who've had it hard and have had some poor breaks and have been in the wrong place at the wrong time and you've ended up in jail and whatever's happened to them. But you also have the white man who doesn't like the black woman. They don't want to be attracted to the black woman, but somehow they become sexually attracted. It might just be for sex, but they have this kind of drawn to the exotic, but they don't really want the black woman. So you have some white men who don't want the black woman, and you have some black men who don't want the black woman, and the black woman is resented for surviving all of that, surviving through victimization, through abuse, through intimidation, through loss. She's not applauded for that. Everybody says, oh, you know, the black woman is so strong. The black woman can get through anything. But what is it doing to her psychologically? How long can she continue to hold on to the branch? The branch that's supposed to lift her up. How long can she hold on for? After knock, after knock, after knock. But that is what she's expected to do. The black woman is strong. She can put up with anything. But black women are always admired. You know, they get through grief, they get through rape, they get through sodomization, they get through having babies, menstruation, you know, menopause, the whole gamut. The black woman soldiers on through it. On top of that, she's knocked back nearly every single day by something or someone. If it's not by innuendo, it's overt. But nevertheless, she is knocked back. And it is because of that slave master's mentality. They'll say, you know, like I said, there's a subconscious expectation that when black women do well, they are entitled to exploit that black woman or get whatever they want from her. It's almost like, you know, it's your place, it's your right, even though you just come up from nowhere. You're a recent exploit. It's your right to look after me. You know, and then, you know, a lot of them have a victim mentality and you're made to feel guilty for what they've been through. And some women do. Like I said, women have a maternal instinct. A lot of women have a maternal instinct. And if they dare say to a man, look, I'm not your mother, God forbid. Because in their mind, you are their mother. I did this poem called Mother Efforts. And it was about that. It was about men who want women to be like their mothers. The only difference is that they have sex with them. And that is a lot to do with the black British mentality. Some women don't mind. Some women, it doesn't matter. You know, they love looking after their man. They love doing everything they can. I'm not even saying it as a criticism. I'm saying it how it impacts those women who get drawn into that cycle. And it's not healthy. And they're not happy. And why it happens, or why I think it happens. So you have the perpetrator or whoever that man is, and I'm talking about man with females for this purposes of this video, and I'm talking about black British men for the purposes of this video with black British women. So a lot of them will assess whether or not you are assertive. If you're not assertive, that gives them license to play around with your mind a little bit, because when you're not assertive, it means you don't really know what you want. You're kind of here, there, all over the place. And that is why sometimes they think your no means yes and your yes means no, because you're not assertive. Sometimes if you're assertive, you can be seen as aggressive, and that causes another problem. So how do black women navigate that? How can they be assertive without being aggressive? How can they say no without it seem like they're challenging too much? It's like dealing with the police. you get a bad cop and you don't respond in the right tone, you could get a clip down the ear. And that's the same with black women, depending on which black man they're dealing with. If they don't speak to them in a certain way, they can end up being hit, and get few kick and few lick. If they dare assert themselves, if they dare say, this is what I want, this is what I want to do. God forbid. Because some of these black men, although they're not looking after the black woman, they feel as though they're in charge. They have, a part of them has that traditional or historical mindset where black men are in charge. Whether or not they can take care of you or not, they are in charge. So we have women who have been abandoned, abused, exploited for working hard, and it's a vicious cycle. If you're down in the bottom, down in the dumps, they want the little bit that you have. If you have it, they expect it. They either use bully tactics or psychology to break down vulnerable women. A lot of women are people pleasers. A lot of women who've had adverse childhood experiences are people pleasers. They don't know how to say no. And that becomes a problem. And that is why they invite the same type of man into their lives. They don't realize. They think, I'm just a nice person. I'm just a kind person. Why is it that this always happens to me every time I try to help somebody? I get the worst end of the stick. It's because you're people pleasing. You're not pleasing yourself. If you check it, yes, you might be a kind person, but what are you doing for somebody else that you need to do for yourself? When you decide to help somebody, is that person going to be a hindrance or are they going to be a help? Is it going to be one-sided? And a lot of people, they don't think that. They just listen to the hard luck story and think, oh, I'm so sorry for him. Oh my God. Next thing you know, they're a part of that. And that person will be telling the next person, oh, I met this woman and she did this to me and she kicked me out on the street and blah, blah, blah. Same old story. You have to understand, why is this thing happening to them? Ask them, why does this keep happening to you? Sometimes it's legit. Some people have genuine bad luck, genuine misjudgment. This isn't about judging anyone. This is... Hold on. Isn't it typical? Get these interruptions. Anyway, what I want... Is it working? Yes, it is. Yes, where was I? I was talking about how some people use bully tactics or psychology to break down women who are people pleasers, and how it's on the woman to understand the reason why situations keep repeating. Like they say, if you do the same thing over and over, you're going to get the same result. You also have people who are passive aggressive, people who come into your life, who come over as really lovely people, and yet underneath they've got their issues. And I mean, that is the majority of us. Not everybody who's got an issue is going to be angry and hostile. You do have some people who try to deal with it, but every now and then you hear the mumblings and the grumblings and you realise that, okay, they're not as happy as they look. They're not as calm as you think they are. And sometimes it is hiding some kind of pain, and they hide that pain by, smiling or trying to be friendly or overdoing it. But then when they overdo it, it just builds up resentment, and they do expect. The more you do for somebody, the more you expect back. And then when you're not getting it back, that's when the resentment builds up, and that's when things flare up. So, what else do I want to say? Black vulnerable women who feel sorry for black men who've made it feel they deserve a break but pay the price. And that is what sometimes happens. You get a lot of black women who feel that the black man deserves a break, and then they give them the break, and then they find that they're in a worse off position. Let me see. Many come up with a hard luck story all the time. You owe them, help them to get them on their feet. And you get people who say you should pick better, but how do you pick better out of a poisoned pond? That's what somebody said to me. You know, it's a sad thing to say that actually, but if your experiences are repetitive, it is going to appear as though everyone is the same. But it is about looking at how you interact with others. Are you still harboring some pain and some hurt and some resentment? Do you still feel as though the world is against you? The world is going to abandon you. The world is going to reject you, and that's why you're warding people off. Is it because you're trying to be kind and nice, but it's not sincere? It's not coming from the right place. It's not that it's not genuine. It's because you're trying to be that person, but it's not really who you are. So you can't keep it up. And then it comes out. Comes out if you have an argument, you say a nasty thing. It's because of what's in your heart. You haven't quite resolved old issues. Let me see. I've already said that. They want us to rely on them. They didn't expect us to get on without them. Black men feel abandoned by black women, and they blame the system and black women for not understanding the system. And yeah, a lot of black women, they when that system was taking place, and it still takes place to a degree, it's not like they maliciously thought that they were turning their backs on black men. They really were thinking, look, I need a place to live. If I need a place to live and I've got a child and my man can't look after me, I've got to look after me. So therefore, if the government says to me, I can't have a man living with me, if I want this house, I'm not going to have that man living with me. And they didn't think of the implications of that. They didn't think that it was a way of segregating the family, a breakdown in the family. They didn't think that. I mean, your mind is quite naive when you're young. So only as you get older, you realise how the relationships have broken down, how they are still breaking down, how black marriages, only a few survive, especially new relationships, and how fragile they are, how fragile people are. They don't want us to get on well without us. They resent us getting on without them. Slave master, I'm going to put you in your place. I'm going to physically, verbally, and sexually abuse you. And that's what the slave master did. Physically, beat you around the head or whatever they did. Verbally, called you all the names under the sun. And sexually, raped you. Or as with the men, they body bossed them. So it's the same attitude that a lot of black men have towards black women. I need to keep you in your place. Don't think that just because you've got this and you've got that, you've got a nice car, you look good, you have a nice home. Don't think that makes you better than me. I'll show you. And that is the attitude some have. Those who resent, those with the slave master's mentality. Like I said, I'm not talking about all black British men. You've got black British men who are absolutely wonderful, who've got their act together and who don't feel that way, who like their black women. You've got it. There's good and bad in everyone. But I'm talking about this section of people, this section of behaviour that keeps being reported, that I keep coming across. When people talk to me, that is disturbing. And I felt I had to talk about it. They can't take it out on white women because it's definite jail time. So, you think they're going to lick down a white woman that easy? They're not going to. A black woman? That's what I mean. They see black women subconsciously as less than. Or it's because they know that their black woman will have more loyalty and actually cares about them on some kind of level. Some. So they won't report them and they take advantage of that. And it's not fair. So I put this down. So you look good, hair done, nails done, educated, good job, you have your house, shekels in the bank, but you can't stop me from putting you in your place and sexually abusing you when things don't go the way I want them to go, i.e. I want to get between your legs because it is the only way I can bring you down. Watch you squirm, scream, call out my name. Traumatizing to be forced to betray and abandon your black man with your own preservation, for your own preservation. Causes black men to resent black women even further. I shouldn't say black men, I should say some. But it causes them to resent black women even further. Black men need to genuinely respect black women and their accomplishments and realise that they can work together. You know, I think some black men, because they feel insecure, because they don't feel as though they have as much as, you know, it's comparisons. Anytime you compare, you're always going to be discontent. But, you know, everyone's got skills, everyone's got talent, and it's to see how you can complement each other regardless and understand each other's background and seeing how you can support each other. Yeah, I've got this poem, Don't Make Us Afraid. Let me just see if I can find it. Hold on one sec. I wrote this poem, oh my goodness, it must be in the 1980s. But it goes like this. I was told that I should feel contempt for the white man because he held my ancestors in slavery. He used to use and abuse the black woman, tormenting her man, her mind, and her body. Yet I do not feel contempt for that white man because he has not directly hurt me. I feel contempt for a black man because under the guise of his love, I have been raped through his feelings of inadequacy, abused by his feelings of insecurity. Physically and mentally, I was in pain under a guise that has no name. Yes, contempt is felt for that black man because he directly hurt me. Some white men are racists. Are we cursed? Some black men are oppressive. Which is worse? Black men, can you love your black women without feeling vulnerable and weak? Love should not be something to be scared of until it forms something you no longer seek. Don't suppress your emotions hoping they will go away, because only anger and resentment will stand in its place, causing you to use and abuse us when really you're only afraid. Black men, help your black women to support you. Help us to be proud of you too. Don't allow us to turn our backs. Don't make us afraid of you. So yeah, that poem was written in the 1980s, and I hope you enjoy this video.